Harding was a nurse with dark clouds in her face that would weep for no reason down Goodbye Road. Drove up from Melbourne, her life in one case, and sat in my office, said, I'm looking for a home. Don't you have someone, somewhere to go? Where are you from, John? I really wanna know. Is it like that billboard near the end of their line? Because keep rolling, honey, and you'll find mine. Sometimes you have to head out on your own, because you can die of hunger trying to suck love from a stone. Sometimes you have to go build your dream home from the orphan's haunting Goodbye Road. Love on one hand, freedom on the other. Gino said no to the jabs and lost his job and his brothers. He found Martine in a stand in the park, where after buying her a coffee, he asked as she stirred, don't you have someone, somewhere to go? Here is somewhere, you're cute, don't you know? Close your eyes, Gino, and you will see orphans can build homes on Goodbye Road. Gino stayed night after night. Then Martine whispered, let's build a light. For my soul is hungry and my heart is on fire, because it knows my love, because it now knows. Sometimes we have to head out on our own, because you can die of hunger trying to suck love from a stone. Sometimes we have to go build our dream homes with the orphans haunting Goodbye Road.
Valentine's Day. I've got this from the cow, so happy Valentine's Day, John. Did you get laid last night?
Thank you, sweetheart. That's so kind of you. Yeah, you're looking as gorgeous as ever, mate.
Thank you very much. You're the same. You're the same. So we're doing this special show. Hopefully, there might be another guy joining us soon, Simon. And but the reason we're here this morning is, what did you want to talk about first? Because
well, there's been a lot going on, hasn't there? So we have a new leader of the opposition.
Yeah,
in Australia. Ironically, it's called the Liberal Party, and they've always been the Conservatives. So down at my morning cafe, I asked the cafe owner, did he know the name of the new opposition leader? He knew there was a new opposition leader, but no idea what his name was. Couldn't remember. And I asked the girl that worked behind the counter, and she said, you know, there's a new leader of the opposition. And she went, opposition to what? Just had no idea what I was talking about. So the news-averse Australian population, and I would say that was pretty typical across the country, a huge percentage of the population would not be able to name the new leader of the opposition.
Me included. I haven't been watching that bit. So what did I miss?
His name is Angus Taylor. So the Conservatives have gone back to the blue bloods in multi-millionaire, just from an electorate just down here. Rhodes Scholar, private schoolboy, and all of that. So they've gone back to their blue blood roots. And
Do you think it will help?
And, Pauline Hanson has now become the hero of the working class. 37%
right.
are intending to vote for her. And Labor, the current most left-wing government in Australian history, have
Oh, well, we have a great. This clip has gone super viral. I shared it yesterday. Had about 100,000 views in a day.
They're considered non-market because they're predominantly government.
They're reliant on government funding.
So they're not good jobs, is that
So
right?
the jobs wouldn't exist without government funding, is that right?
Not all of them. So there are some, for instance, in some of this stuff, like in education, there'll be private health, there'll be private schools, employment in private schools in that, for example.
Okay. So how many government jobs have been created in the last year?
Government
Across the country, because it's reporting employment across the country, as you'd understand.
So in terms of 1.2%.
In terms of public jobs, it's to the September quarter 2024, it's about 1.2% growth over the year.
And of a proportion of overall employment growth?
As a proportion, so private was 1.8% growth.
40% is public.
So about in terms of shares, about 40% is public.
40% is public?
Yep.
Okay, so 40% of the employment growth in the last year, you're saying is government-funded jobs?
40% represents the public, well, how the ABS defines public, yeah.
Which is separate from how you just define non-market?
That's right, yeah.
So to use your non-market definition, how big would that be?
Non-market would be 83%.
83%?
Yep.
So 83% of the employment growth in the last year, non-market jobs?
Yes.
So
it's incredible, isn't it? They keep claiming they've got low unemployment figures because they've hired everybody. I went to visit.
This is real. This is real. We're not making this up. This is absolutely real. Yeah.
You can't make it up. It's just incredible.
Well, you know the other thing with it though, this is, and I think this is really scary. I wonder if I've got it here. Where have I got it? There's because you're realizing now, if you do a government job, you have to either stay silent or mouth the government ideology. So the United Nations has just done this, and the EU Parliament.
Roll call vote. The vote is open. And the vote is closed. And that's adopted.
So that vote is to basically say that a man now can, if you decide this morning, John, that you're a woman, you are a woman. That's it. So that's what they've decided. The United Nations and the EU, the benefits of which, well, the people are benefiting over here, and it all links in. But this is what I put up. The United Nations declaring a man can become a woman is the state crushing the truth to declare 2 + 2 now equals whatever we say it equals. And if you don't want to go to jail for a hate crime, then you better be seen to agree or just remain silent. I think this is 1984. People now know something not to be real, and they have to pretend. And if you don't, this is the punishment. This is a woman in America, a young girl.
But then they took your Florida crown off you because you made statements about sort of transgender?
Yes, that is exactly right. I was asked to sign a contract that was different than the first one that I had agreed to because they had changed it 4 weeks after I rightly won. And so I didn't lose my crown because I broke a rule. I lost the crown because I was unwilling to rewrite the truth.
And so, which means this is happening in Tasmania right now. Tasmania has a beauty contest, Miss Tasmania. This is one of the entrants. Lucy Violet. I think she's very brave. This is her on stage. I think she has a good chance. I do, especially in the heavyweight division, and this is her with her. I'm guessing it's her mother now, and she was second runner up. That's probably because the other ones are all probably still running in the opposite direction, but because they're unwilling to swallow the new truth. But here's where we are. What do you make of that, Jonathan?
Oh my golly, I was around in the early 70s, the first Mardi Gras marches and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
daring, and everyone. And everyone was on board, and not everyone, obviously, the fundamentalist Christians and so on, but basically it was seen as wonderfully progressive, and all the gay rights and lesbian rights and all that sort of stuff. It was seen as really progressive and open-minded and free. Go out for the night and wake up in the morning thinking, "Oh my God." All sorts of things. It was just free,
Well, you've just gone silent. I just lost your volume. Did they die?
Can you hear me all right?
You got the microphone the right way around. Yes.
Yeah. So did you hear anything I said or what?
Yeah. You said you were in the 70s. It was really progressive, gay rights, lesbian rights. Look, I was the same. I did a calendar on same-sex marriage with these beautiful portraits, and I was really proud of it. We photographed guys who'd been together for 45 years, and I'm still for it. But this trans thing is different.
Totally different. Yeah.
There's not huge my Anna is a trans friend of mine, and I was talking to her about the trans movement. She's going, "What are you talking about? There's no trans movement. There's no trans community. We don't hang out with other trans. I don't go to town with other trans people. Say, hey, with the trans." It's a fabrication. I believe this is a new form of control, and it links up to all the government jobs, because we met a Sudanese man who was working for the government, and he said he'd been to Australia, he'd been a few years in Australia, nice guy, and he said he got a memo that if he or anyone in the government, any government job, mentioned Palestine or Israel at work or posted anything about Palestine or Israel, especially Palestine, they'd be immediately sacked, summarily sacked. So now that they're employing 80% of the population, they're basically controlling the truth because people don't want to lose their jobs. So I'm not saying this is how they're doing it, basically our way or the highway.
83% of all new jobs. My dog is, it's windy outside and he doesn't, this is my dog. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
Hey, there you go. You're a good looking boy. Hey.
He is a good looking boy.
He is, aren't you? All right, off you go. Go on. Get out of the way. So, where were we at? David Bowie declared, he was bisexual in the early 70s, and it just ran amok. The whole of Sydney was a buzz. And you fast forward to the present, and it's just like, I don't want my kids in drag queen story time. I just don't.
No.
And a lot of the old gay guys are the same. They just they don't want to be associated with it. It's too much.
We've had mature lesbians on. Miss Lister's sister is a famous one. She was working with us for a while. She actually thinks it's an attack on the gay community, and an attack on the lesbian community, because they're basically saying you're not gay, John, or you're not gay, Michael. You just don't realize you're a woman, so trans. So it's actually that's what she thinks.
It's funny.
And I saw this meme. You should change your core values and beliefs so I fit in. And that's like, this is the beauty of memes now,
Yeah,
And
some stuff up. I published a book called She Said, She Said, and it was about this woman. She was a really moving book, actually. And her husband, who was ex-army and very sporty and a handsome lad and all the rest of it, and they had 3 children together. And one day he said, darling, we have to talk. And it was completely out of the blue to her. She had no idea that he wanted to transition to a woman. And it was a weird story that it was, she wrote about it really in a really moving way about how they stayed together for a while afterwards and how awkward it was and all that, really interesting book. Are you still there? Well, Michael, you've disappeared. What's going on? What it's like. Yeah, it was really interesting. So it's been I don't know what's happened to Michael here.
Have I
done
something? I took myself off. Yeah, I was just
you
saying,
turned yourself off.
Yeah, I interviewed a man yesterday, really nice guy. He was a mechanic. He's got long false fingernails. He's growing his hair long, and I think he's transitioning, and he might not even be aware of it himself yet. And so that'll go up today. And he's in the middle of the bush. He's not really affected by all the propaganda. I think he's just doing it. So is there something in the water? Is this just, I don't know.
Well, that's a theory. There's also something in the jabs, they say, which affects the hormones.
Well, he's unvaccinated, this guy. So he's unjabbed. But there's, and I don't really care. I congratulate, he's in his 50s. If he wants to go the other way, I really don't care. My thing is that, like that meme we just posted, why do we have to alter our own version of the truth to accommodate these people? I don't believe the government's doing it because they really care about these few people who are transitioning. I believe there's a more nefarious reason they're shoving it down our throats, and it seems to be control. I mean, if you're too frightened to speak the truth because of jail, then you're a slave.
Yeah, it's never made a lot of sense to me. Some people just see it as demonic. Some people see it as a societal collapse. There's always been transsexuals in many cultures, and they were often revered, or assumed sort of senior religious positions even. The Pacific Islands are an example of that. The famous Maori drag queens, 6'7", swinging their handbags like a brick, dangerous. You wouldn't want to meet them on Bondi Beach at 3 a.m., that's for sure.
Yeah.
They were, famous or infamous, and it was.
Yeah, I met one in Perth once. We went into Connections with it, and there was the bouncer. He must have been 6'5". It was just an enormous Maori.
Massive, yeah.
And we side on, and then he turned to us, and he had a big flower. I think it was in his ear, actually, a big flower, and he goes, hello. And he was just, that's how he was. I don't care. I find it liberating this, but there's something else going on with this where they're making it, I don't know. I really can't. That's all I can see.
It's bewildered a lot of people. It really has. It's bewildered. It alienates your traditional people of faith. Muslims and Christians and so on are all. It forms a very. It just ruffles them. They don't want their own children to turn out like that. It flies in the face of everything they believe in, and traditional cultures are much the same. It puzzles a lot of people, and as we said before, the traditional gay community, of dudes like dudes, as J.D. Vance, they are all, a lot of them are against it too. They just it's taken their whole thing hostage, that you suddenly have to have a really expansive view of it. And there's plenty of research about people who transition and successfully transition, but there's no research on people who realise, as some do, that they've made the worst mistake of their life. But you see, there's been articles about academics that just cannot get a single drop of funding to do any of the research, post the op, and many of them aren't happy, and there's a major suit going on in America over someone who was transitioned really young, 15 or 14, 15, 16, whatever it was, and 10 years later wants to sue everybody for it.
Yeah, and she won. She won. She won a $2 million lawsuit against a psychiatrist and the surgeon. So you thought this was STEM stuff, but this came out in England. Labor trans policy to let children as young as 4 transition while keeping it a secret from their parents. That's what I find. Why can't the parents be involved? Why are they're going after the parents against the? There's just and this from Germany.
Have you looked at the figures in Australia?
Germany's top model winner here on the left, and random German track runner. It's just like what? And I think this has been forced into us to make people feel worthless, because you can't say anything, because they'll, especially in England, because you'll be arrested for a hate crime. And
have you looked at the number of children being transitioned in Australia?
No,
I don't have the figures right in front of me, but it's quite remarkable. It's many hundreds and hundreds of children all around Australia who are going through this process as we speak. A lot of it, as I understand, without parental approval. These doctors are making, because it's a highly expensive process, and of course it's all taxpayer funded. So I would, yes, if you just ask one of the AIs, they'll give you the string of figures about it, but it's significant that there's well over 1,000 children right this minute undergoing this treatment in Australia. And it used to be extremely rare, if you remember.
That's it. It was rare.
Extremely rare. Yeah. What was it? It was a beautiful book by James Morrison. Was it the travel writer? Wrote a book about Sydney. He got the op in Thailand many years ago. Conundrum, I think the book was called, and beautiful book. But it was extremely rare, and now it's. I don't know what the exact figures are, but it's just seen as it's a social contagion, basically, an engineered social contagion. And as you say, who exactly is benefiting from this?
Well, that's
we grew up in that generation.
Here, just this comment from Tim Heritage: new way of thinking, self-censorship, freedom of speech is freedom to help others out of collective thinking. And I think that's what these hate speech laws, they're so vague that everyone's now defaulting to silence. Every time you do a podcast, you think, is this the thing that'll get me arrested? I mean, they're just, you know what I mean? and that's where we are now. So I wrote this. So this, I think I read this. So the granddaughters of Germaine Greer are now putting all their weight behind defending the rights of men to pretend they can be women, to the detriment of women when it comes to sports and women-only spaces, whilst ignoring the fact that their true biological sisters in Iran and Afghanistan have been viciously raped and killed because they are fighting to attain the freedom that these young women are now giving back to men. So it's we interviewed that Iranian girl the other day, and she was saying this, that when they are shooting all the protesters now, or if they think you're protesting against the regime, you end up going to jail. It's horrific. But one thing that they do is, if they think the girl's a virgin's automatically going to heaven. So they're all raped. They're all raped to make sure they can't go into heaven. I mean, it's just an excuse to be brutal. But that's real feminism. That's where the feminists, to me, need to be helping these women fight this draconian, brutal, evil actions. And yet here they are in our country defending the rights of men to be women.
Oh, it's bizarre.
Defending the rights of men like me to go into saying I'm a woman and going into women's toilets. So we saw this. This I thought was really interesting.
I just happen to know one of Australia's most famous transsexuals called, I'm not even sure if that's the right term now, called
that's right.
Catherine Elizabeth McGregor, who used to work in the army, and I knew her really well when she was a press secretary as a him, and he was a really great press secretary, like probably Sydney's best press secretary. They would give you all the information you wanted. Would if you had any queries, which in those days we had queries, now they just regurgitate the press release. But back in the day, if you were doing your job, and they saw their job as a conduit between the government and the public, and took it seriously. And he was a really great press secretary, and was also army, was very senior in the army, very smart guy, University of Oxford and all the rest of it. And so it'd be interesting actually to have her on, because she was really, they did a play about her life, which was performed in Sydney at Sydney Theatre Company, and has been a really the most high profile. Used to go on and was very well accepted by the establishment. Was a cricket writer for a long time, and would go on Sky News, and the ABC, being very smart, put her up against various people. But so she's politically conservative, which is interesting. And she has 5,000 followers on Facebook. She's interesting. So she's a very interesting person. And,
I know Maiana, who was transitioned 30 years ago. She was actually playing professional golf in Europe as a trans woman few years ago. But she just wanted to be left alone. She actually said, "I'm not a true woman. I'm a trans woman," which is, I was born in the wrong body, and she says she's got gender dysphoria. And to me, this is what she felt she needed to do. But what she did in her time, she told me when she wanted to transition as an adult, it took a year of psychological testing. Like, she had to go see a psychologist once a week just to make sure she's on the right path. And until they'd allowed her to go through that journey, only then did they move to surgery and stuff. She could wear dresses, she could dress up, maybe a few hormones, but they wouldn't let hormone therapy, but they wouldn't let her transition until they'd really check that she was comfortable with the journey she was going to take, because she couldn't come back. And to me, that sounds like a caring society. You've got this condition, gender dysphoria. This is a caring society making sure, because you could go from the fire pan into the fire. But now they're after the kids. A 4-year-old kid doesn't know it's in the right body or not. A 4-year-old kid just wants to know where the chocolate is.
It's insane. Yeah, I knew one of the first people in Australia, in the Australian media, to transition. Called her name now is Angela, and she was, and we all got called up in the office. There was a big meeting on the news floor at the Sydney Morning Herald, where I worked at the time, and we were all told to when she went off and disappeared for a while and then came back, we were all to treat her as if nothing had happened and everything's normal and all that sort of thing, which of course gossip just flew, everywhere.
Yeah.
But she has the same girlfriend as she had back then. Now,
wow! Well, there you go. Yeah, this guy.
They've been together for decades, those two.
Yeah,
and she's she's a really fearsome sub-editor. No stray apostrophe ever got past that girl, I can tell you now. Oh, my God. As if she was in a very public arena. So if she called you over, to the subs desk as a mere, reporter, like, oh, my God, they ruled the roost. They ruled the roost.
I remember there was one in Tasmania in the West Point Casino I was working. She was on the front reception. She did the evenings. And she was accepted there, and this was 30 years ago. So there's never been a problem, I don't think, of acceptance there. The other thing that's happening now, which is really interesting, I just want to say hi to this guy, Jonathan Carpenter from Indiana. Hey, go, man. It's morning here in Australia. I'm in South Australia. John's in Sydney. But there was, now there was a school shooting in Canada the other day, and the shooter was a young transitioner. And it came up in the last 2 years, literally all the school shootings have been done by transitioning boys becoming women or the other way around. So, and they think it's because of all these drugs that they're on and the fact that the media keeps saying there's a trans genocide. They're trying to kill the trans. They're trying to, where? Where are they trying to kill the trans? Where? I don't see men walking down the streets of Sydney, looking for trans people. I don't see it anywhere. I don't see. So but they've been sold that, and then because they're crazy and all these drugs, they go nuts. They feel like they're under attack. I don't know, but
Yeah, I did I did an essay at university on this question and ran around interviewing basically drag queens in Sydney, and they all said the same thing as you were saying. They felt like they'd been born into the wrong body, but it was really rare. It wasn't the social contagion that it is today, and it wasn't a very profitable social contagion for certain people that it is today. It was rare, and they were all characters, because you could make a living out of the entertainment industry, but there weren't many other paths of employment. In Thailand, the famous ladyboys, they're just a part of an accepted part of the culture, and they go and so beautiful. Some of them, they're just amazing because they
are beautiful. I was in Melbourne. Those are my tram days. I was heading into Melbourne in the city,
this bloody
and this woman got on, probably in her late 20s. She had a midriff on, and her belly was her muffin top was just rolling over her belt. So she had this big dangling belly, and she looked a bit rough, and she just said, "Yeah, darling, silly." And then I said, "Yes, just stay on." And at the next stop, a lady boy from Thailand who must be on holiday got on and said, "Are you going into the city?" And I was thinking, mate, if I might have to go to a desert island, I'm taking you. I'm taking you. I'm taking you in a lot of razors. But I'm taking you. I'm not taking her. And so, so I don't think there's ever been a trouble with trans. I used to watch another guy get on in Q. He had a beard like me, and he'd be wearing his wife's like negligee or this little black dress, and he'd just get on with his handbag and he'd sit there, and I'd watch all these people. There'd be Muslims and Maoris and just random, all these different races of the planet sitting around him, and no one ever bothered him at all. People just used to give a little bit of a smile to each other, say, "Look at that," because there's something unusual, but there's no hate. There was no one wanting to rip him off the tram and beat him up. And yet the mainstream media and everything else and the trans movement themselves is putting out a thing that there's this great trans genocide going on because they're not accepted for who they really are. When in actual fact, the irony is they don't know who they really are. They're born in the wrong body. So yeah, it's just, but I do think now with the United Nations doing it and the EU enforcing it with the hate speech laws they have over there and the hate speech laws here, that we might not be able to have these conversations going forward because we'll have the SWAT team smashing the door in, shooting you or bashing into your place, shooting your dog and dragging you out,
Well, there was a book a while back about the Thai ladyboys called The Third Sex, which was a famous book in the day. And, are those books going to be restricted? I got one post from a Google on a Google blog that was restricted 13 years after it was written, I think, and I couldn't work out what it was, and I was just talking about the ladyboys of Bangkok in an inoffensive way, and the only other offensive thing in this post was recalling that Tony Abbott was wanted to restrict immigration to 70,000 a year, which was, and I couldn't work out, was it a harmless mention of the much loved ladyboys of Thailand, or the I used to hang out with them actually, when I was on a bit of a late night bender or three, and I used to hang out with them in Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand, and they were all just, because they're all working,
Mm.
the minute the sun comes up, they're straight home because, they don't want to be seen in the light. But they're all looking for customers in the early hours of the morning, and they're all, on the gear. But they're amazing characters,
Yeah, they were.
Amazing characters.
They're sort of trying to put up create this world of hate that's not actually there. When I interviewed this mechanic, and I'm going to call him the decorated mechanic. I said to him, we grew up with Bowie, like you said, Bowie coming out as bisexual. We grew up with Bowie and we do this. It's not like, oh my God,
we've so excited.
Yeah. It's like we've done this, man. It's been done. But I do. It's just this. I don't know. It's just this thing of control. The other thing, moving on, because we want to get to the Indian.
Yeah, I don't even know how we started on this subject.
Yeah, but this is big. But so this is England, but it's all around the world at the minute. Excess deaths continue to climb with no signs of slowing down. And I'm on the road, and I'm telling you, that's all I'm hearing. We got an interview the other day. He might not put it up because he changed his mind. Just this young guy with a list of 35 people that he knows personally have either died or are dying or are seriously injured. And the list, he said, is a year old because he couldn't bring himself to keep it going. So it was just from 1 year. And it's heart attacks. One was a 7-year-old girl, died in her sleep. It's just nonstop. And no one's talking about it.
Yeah, does the general public know what you're talking about? What's it called? Sudden death? The Edward Dowd?
Yeah, they did briefly. They called it sudden adult death syndrome. They called it that, but then they stopped calling it that because I think people said, "Is that like sudden infant death syndrome?" So what you think the jabs were killing the babies? Oh no, did we? Let's get rid of that. And now they don't say anything about it. And
it was running in Australia at 30 to 35,000 a year. I'm not sure what it's running at now. Do you know the latest stats?
Well, they've raised the death. They've raised apparently the base death level. So the base used to be here, and they've raised it to make the excess look less. That's what we're hearing. But
statistical manipulation.
But it must be a lot because everywhere I go, everyone's talking about people dying.
Oh, the population is sick. Yeah. Everywhere you go, people look sick or are sick, and it's and there aren't many common factors apart from McDonald's and KFC that could make a population that damn sick. So it's a serious and well-recognised phenomenon now. It's not just a few crackpots living in a bus on the Nullarbor Plains, mate. It's
that's right. Well, they can't hide it anymore. They can't hide it anymore. There's too many deaths. I've had so many people tell me they've never been to so many funerals in their life, and they literally don't want to go because they just can't hack it. There's I think my friend Forsh, who's probably working now, he went to, I think it was 17 last year or something, some incredible amount. And he said and some of them are older people, but not all, and even the older people are healthy. He told me this amazing story where he went to this, he's a gardener, and he went to this one guy who's dying. And the guy said, he lives on a small street, and it's probably like 20 houses. He said 5 of the people on the street all have turbo cancer. They're all dying. On this one,
who even heard of turbo cancer? Before all this, I never even had no idea what the term even meant.
No, it's a new term.
Prior to 2020.
Yeah,
it's all new. Yes.
Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, amazing.
Okay, now the other thing is India. Do you want to ask me about any updates on the India thing?
Yes, as you know, there's a new opposition leader, and he's putting the question of immigration, front and centre of his pitch to the electorate, because it's mass immigration which is driving the surge in One Nation. And if an election was held today, we could quite possibly have Pauline Hanson as the Prime Minister. So it's a huge hot button topic, not just on the road, but in politics. So what are you seeing on the ground?
What I'm seeing on the ground is this is the number one conversation everywhere, more than all the deaths. more than the cost of living. We're getting calls of people reaching out. I put up the question first, because basically, let's go back. So basically, what we're seeing is Indians are buying up every business in the towns. Perfect example is Pambula Beach, where I think they bought the pubs, the post office, cafes, the service stations. So everyone's seeing them buy everything up. And so what the rumor was is that they were getting government grants, and they were putting these government grants together. Like, say, everyone in the family would give them a grant. They put the grants together, and then they buy a business. But we couldn't find any real evidence of that. Or some people have sent us.
Well, there is evidence of that. We just haven't collated it properly. They're certainly getting startup grants and all those other sorts of things.
Yeah.
So we just
haven't.
There's no sense that it's illegal.
There's no sense that there's no.
Oh, no one's saying it's illegal. It's encouraged. No. They're encouraging people to come here with all sorts of enticements and, encouragement to start up your own business is one of them.
Yeah, and the other thing that they've done is apparently if you set up a business in Australia or you buy a business, it's easier to bring people in. It's a quicker road to citizenship. The other thing we've heard, and because there's so much, basically the 2 posts I've done about it have just had so many comments and people emailing me. What they're saying is that in some of these departments that issue the grants, Indians have got in, and Pakistanis and Indians have got in, and they've taken over literally 2/3 of the roles or more. So there is a suspicion that they are greasing the tracks to getting these grants, and that Australia is just as dumb as dog shit and letting it happen. But the other big thing that came in this week is, and we're hearing this from a lot of people, and who are hearing it from Indians, because people are actually talking to them, how are you affording all this? Because everyone else is broke. And they're talking that it's money from India, either dirty money or money from very cheap loans from India. Now, if that's the case, which is probably legal as well, what we're actually seeing is an economic invasion.
Yes, well, it's a while now since Clive Hamilton from the Australian Institute wrote The Silent Invasion about the Chinese takeover of so much of Australian property and businesses. But this is a different scale altogether, it would appear, and is much more public, much more in people's face. The commentariat, it's not just Sky News, and the entire commentariat is alive to this now. And if I can send you a couple of links to Macro Business, which is by Leif van Onselen, who is a very much admired economist and also media figure. He often appears also all sorts of things. So he's done a couple of recent articles, but he's been hot on this topic for years now. But a couple of his recent pieces out this year really focus on this. So one of them was called, if I could send you the links, can you put them up?
Yeah, put them in the private chats. I'll have a go.
Okay, so will I do that now?
Yeah, do the private chats.
I don't know whether then people could follow what I'm talking about, but that would be...
do that. It's about the dollars. But the other thing is what we've suggested in a few pieces is that, yes, they might be getting the money from somewhere, but these businesses, the Australians are like, oh yeah, okay, I'll open this here, 2 secs. We talked to a woman in a cafe in this tiny little town, and she said that, and it was a tiny little town. I didn't think they'd have enough business, but she was really busy, and I talked to her about how busy she was and said, how are you doing? And she said basically she's not making any profit because of the cost of living and all the government regulations that she has to adhere to literally don't make it profitable enough to be in the business. So she'd have to charge. So we've got that thing there. I'll just bring in, before we go here, see if he's in. He's just coming in. Here he is. This is our other guest. This is Simon. G'day, Simon.
Hello.
This is John Stapleton, Simon.
Simon, how are you?
Hello, John. Nice to meet you,
doing
mate.
well? Yeah, same. That's
not
quite
bad
the beard.
I just tumbled out of bed. I set the alarm, didn't fucking work. Oh, why do these things always happen to me? I'm fucked.
I thought that might be the case.
Yeah.
But we're just talking now.
Right.
We've covered trans people. We've covered the excess deaths. Now we're talking about the Indians buying up the nation.
And so we're just looking at the story. Sorry, Michael.
Ask him, John, who's the new leader of the Liberal Party?
Who's the new leader of the Liberal Party, Simon?
I should have done that. Why don't I do that?
I saw yesterday some bloke I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
I didn't know either, mate.
Some arsehole.
John was just saying that nobody knows, and his two co-hosts, we don't know.
God.
Yeah, no.
You're meant to be the cutting edge, mate. You're meant to be the
they're
smart ones.
Anyway, let's be honest, they're irrelevant. So,
God. All right.
So just going up to here, this is all
right. We'll just run through these two stories if you don't mind, if we've got a minute, because this is he's seen as a very authoritative source, and
Olsen.
And he writes really well, and his site Macro Business is a must follow if you're interested in the economics of Australia and what's happening to the country. So, and he's reposted something by Stephen Saunders. Anthony Albanese's response to Bondi followed a script, basically. Unpopular mass migration must continue at any cost. Citizens must be socially cohesive, or else we're racist. Less than 24 hours after Bondi studied sectarian slaughter, a ghastly new landmark for Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his press gallery chooks had already agreed to a narrative. It was guns and anti-Semitism, nothing to do with mass migration. The coalition dared not challenge this framing. Jewish organisations and politicians dared not buck the script. And this is despite the fact that most Australians favour lower immigration. It's gone way up. So if you look across, there's a figure, a graph here under the Hawke-Keating years, way back when, net overseas migration per day in office was 256. Then you go on to Johnny Howard, who and both sides of Parliament are guilty with this. Don't think otherwise. Johnny Howard, who made a big play of stop the boats, we're controlling who's coming into this country. He actually quadrupled legal migration while pretending to be tough on borders. The only people at that time who were in favour of mass migration was the Chamber of Commerce, the very big end of town, because you sell more cornflakes, more chips, the price of property goes up. Those on the right side of the ledger, who own shares and own property, see their fortunes increase dramatically. And he was always closely aligned to that. Then we go to the Rudd-Gillard years, that it went up to 617 per day. Good old Rudd, recently the Australian ambassador to the US, and Gillard, the first woman prime minister. Then we went to the Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison years. It went down slightly because of the pandemic to 610. Albanese is running at 1,162 new migrants, and that's in addition to its
and
net
that's
migration.
That's a day.
Per day.
Yeah, wow.
Yep. So mass migration isn't left versus right, it's political classes versus the rest. No other developed nation is emulating our multicultural nirvana. Peer nations and world powers have much smaller immigration profiles and low rates of population growth. So if you look at the population change, that's from 2000 to 2024. The European area is 8%. The OECD total is 17%. The US is 22%. United Kingdom 18%. And then you go to Australia, it's 45%. Yeah, it's just massive. It's not an illusion. It's not a few, rabid right wingers in the corner of the pub muttering about those foreigners. Australia's 30% overseas born and 50% migrant origin. While this is thrilling for population boosters, it is a world outlier, a historical anomaly. More than 45% of population growth this century is nuts, socially and environmentally. And there's another story here from the same
other one
source.
here. Yeah,
Labor panders to the Indian vote.
Well, this is what I'm seeing. This is why I don't think anything I'm doing is going to have an effect, because they see the Indian vote.
Well, it's 85%. So in its first term, the Albanese government inked 2 migration-related pacts with India, specifically aimed at promoting migration flows to Australia. This is before you get to the question of the religious breakdown of these migrants. But anyway, that's another issue altogether. But the 2 pacts he instigated were called the Australian-India Migration and Mobility Partnership Agreement, and the other was the Mechanism for Mutual Recognition of Qualifications. Last year's Labor federal election victory, well, it would be 2 years ago now if you put it. Oh, no, sorry. Last year's Labor federal election victory sparked celebrations among the Indian population and migration agents who believed that avenues to immigration and permanent residency had improved. And you can see he's got various tables there. Now, this is pollster Cos Samaris. This was published in the Australian Financial Review, which is, basically a pretty conservative damn rag. Pollster Cos Samaris, if I've got the pronunciation right, declared openly that 85% of the Indian diaspora voted for Labor in the last year's federal election. And he explained how both the left Labor and Greens uses immigration to divide and conquer the coalition, which it most certainly has. And that's the thing, that the issue has basically dramatically divided the Conservatives in this country to the point where they are no longer an effective opposition. And what was always an anti-mass migration party, One Nation with Pauline Hanson, is just sweeping the table. I used to go, I'll close on this note, I used to do a lot of Pauline Hanson stories when she was running around like 20, 30 years ago it was, and she was a really new phenomenon. There was the whole thing of whether she was racist or not, and it caused a huge fuss in progressive publications like the Herald. We were keen to be out to get her, basically, and I'd be sent off to these town hall meetings that she'd hold, and there was an amazing number of migrants there. Like, she was really popular amongst immigrants to this country, and the reason, when you asked them why she was so popular when she's running this mass immigration stance, was because they had come from countries where they'd seen the impacts of communism, and they thought that this was communist, the way the government was behaving. So it was driven, her popularity was really driven massively by an anti-communist stance from fresh immigrants, who back in those days were, Greeks and so on and so forth. Greeks, Italians.
Well, there's another thing that came out recently about a doctor, a Chinese doctor was training this new migrant doctor who's apparently come from the subcontinent, and he got aware, or very concerned early on, and other people in the hospital were concerned too, that this person was not a doctor. They knew nothing, that all the qualifications were fake, and that they just weren't a doctor. And so he put in a complaint, and he's been suspended. And they, as being racist, even though he's Chinese, and they have gone forward. So this person is out there now being a doctor, and other doctors around her really believe that she's not a doctor. This went viral on Twitter, but here's where we are. I mean, but out here in the country, I'm telling you, you see it everywhere. They can't hide it. And the other thing too is we're going into hard economic times. That's what I was trying to say, Simon. So we talked to this woman in a cafe in this tiny little town, and she was busy, but she said she's not making any profit because the amount of government regulations she has to service, or insurances and all that, wages, workers' comp insurance, all this, and the cost of living, which means that she'd have to sell a coffee for $7, which she doesn't think her locals would buy. She's gone broke, even though she's busy. And after 8 years, she's looking at the end.
Can you just excuse me for a minute? I'll be back.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, where the Indians come in, and the Indians say, well, say you're my brother. Say we were Indians. I hire you. I give you $10 an hour, a bit extra if you need it. And we all work together. We dodgy all the government stuff. And the government's not going to touch us because they want our vote. So they're going to look the other way as we, refuse to follow the rules. I know when Kelly...
to employ 10 Australians, and it just became impossible. I've worked on my own for over a decade.
Yeah.
Because of all the fucking headache. It's not so much the man, it's the fucking government.
Yeah.
And they make things, they set traps, like in trades, they have you employing people with an ABN, right?
Yeah.
And you pay them according to being a contractor. Like, so for example, so when I was employing people, like the going rate was, I don't know, $25, $30 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And the award rate was 17, right? So if you paid the award rate and sick pay and holidays and all that kind of stuff, it would come up to costing you the same, $30 an hour, right?
Yeah.
So they got it all, and they're supposed to look after themselves. But the government sets this trap for you. They say they are not a contractor if they are not supplying materials. So they can come and selectively fuck you up the ass when they feel like it. Yeah. And then you're up for, I mean, I used to pay superannuation anyway, right? But you're really a contractor, you don't pay superannuation. So you got they can come and selectively fuck you for superannuation, long service leave, fucking fine you to oblivion, right? Yet they set up that system of ABN, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you've got on top of that, you've got all the insurances. I mean, if you got some guy treads on a nail and your workers' comp is inadequate. So say you employ 9 men full time and you need a guy for 1 day to hold a ladder and a bucket of paint or a bit of wood falls on his head, right? You've got a huge policy, but you know what insurance companies are like? They'll say, oh, that's the 10th man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they'll fuck you up the ass. So, I mean, there I was employing 10 Australians, right? And supporting all those families, and the stress of that, I'll tell you, big time.
Yeah.
Because you're working for builders who are like fucking pirates. Or you won't pay ye, you know? And especially the big ones, the big companies. And so so now I work on my own. I'm like, fuck you. I don't even register for GST. I keep my turnover under 80 grand.
Yeah. And so, and then what I'm saying though is that the Indians, what's on your screen, John? Is that your dog? Then the Indians work differently.
Fly.
They're protected by the government. The government wants their votes. So it's pretty sure they don't go after them as much. And like when that one tried to nick my phone in that roadhouse, remember that? Did you hear about that, John?
No.
So I left my phone at we went, in the morning we wake up, we find a public toilet and left my phone in there. And about 40 kilometers down the road, we realized, we went back to see if it was there. And then Kelly said, go into the little roadhouse there. There's a little roadhouse, see if it's there. I went in there. The Indian guy said, no one's handed in a phone. So I went to look for a police. There was no police. All the stores were closed. And then Kelly remembered, hey, you got a tracker on your phone. That's how people can find the bus. So we said, oh, yeah. So we looked up the tracker. The tracker was in the store. Went back in the store. We've got a tracker here. Says it's in the store. It's like it's actually right where you're standing. And he's going, oh, what? There's this. And Kelly went and walked through the back looking for it. And he posted that video to say, look at this woman's doing. But what she found was disgusting. The food, if the health department had come in, they would have closed the place down, but they don't.
Nah.
They don't come in. So if you're eating food from this place, believe me, make sure your medical insurance is in place. And then they and then finally he handed over the phone and he had a hissy fit. And he said, oh, someone had just handed it in. But, he was just a thief. Doesn't matter whether he's Indian or not. He was just trying to nick the phone. So that's not a thing. But the fact that the kitchen was in the state it was, means they're not frightened of the health department, means the health department is not turning up. And that's how I think they're surviving in these businesses. They're not adhering to the regulations that white Australians and other hardworking Australians are adhering to. And that can make them survive in these hard economic times. They're economic rationalists. So they pay their relatives or something $10 an hour. And we've had people tell us this, $10 an hour. And they are prospering while all the other Australian businesses who are adhering to these regulations are going down the gurgler. I think the politician said the other day, under Albanese, 42,179 businesses have hit the wall, from builders, cafe owners, restaurants, and all of these hire huge amounts of people, all gone. Manufacturing, this is this. Nothing. And I think it seems to me that the country is just collapsing, and Albanese is trying to patch over the huge gaps in the budget by importing a shit ton of Indians.
You want to see the standard of work they do in the construction industry?
Yeah, I've heard that too. It's very common.
It's fucked. It's fucked. They're not even trades. They're just like, it's just like Cowboy City. And people are paying big dollars for fucking homes. And like they post it on Facebook, in these builder complaints groups.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's just shocking, the shit they get away with. If I did it, I'd be fucking hauled up. They'd fucking haul me.
Maybe you got to transition into Indian. So it's a, But what I'm saying is, it's what's happening now is like this woman I met in an op shop. This is talking on the ground to people. And I said to her about the hate speech laws, and she said, I'll never forget it. She's really lovely, worked in bars all her life, very easygoing. But then she looked around and just whispered, I've never been racist, but this government is making me racist because the colored people are being treated better than me.
This is all very familiar for me, being from the UK. All very familiar.
Yeah, you're fucked, mate, over there. But what about you, John?
You're 20 years behind.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, John, as a journo watching it?
I think it's it used to be, you were just watching a slow motion collapse. There was always that, and it's been a long time coming. The whole Aboriginal industry, people used to say during the 1930s, 20s, and 30s, when everyone was poor, basically everybody got on. But now there's a huge amount of resentment, because and studies will show that if a whole lot of people are living together poor, they're all happy together. If a whole lot of people are rich and living together, they're all happy. But if you're on the borderline and you're looking over somebody's fence and they're richer than you, or they're getting something free that you and you're not, then the resentment builds and the anger builds. And so it's been a long time coming. The old Greeks and Italians, come here, work hard. All you had to say was come here, work hard, and say you loved Australia, and bang, it was fine. And you'd get sent up for being a wog or whatever, but you were basically thoroughly accepted. Now, the whole creed of multiculturalism, there's a lot of commentary out now that it's you've only got to look at the streets of Sydney in this week alone, with the visit of the president of Israel, Herzog, that this is now a deeply divided country. And what could have been more volatile than inviting the Jewish president to Australia, when you know that there's a significant Muslim population here that have traditionally been highly hostile to each other? What could have been more divisive than to do that? But they've done it. So now you had Chris Minns, the Premier of New South Wales, banning demonstrations. He's going to ban the phrase "from the river to the sea" of globalise the Intifada, which was one of the chants. So that apparently is going to be banned as by legislation.
Have you seen this?
It's a mess. The whole damn thing is a mess.
Someone put a poster on a post box with a Hitler moustache on him, and they've sent the forensic teams out.
Oh, to study where he bought the glue from and whether there's any really. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And this is the left.
Meanwhile, those on Asia watch lists are building up their arsenals.
Well, traditionally, the left have been somewhat immune to this level of police action. I mean, the treatment that the anti-vaxxers and the anti-lockdown people got during COVID and before, the really extreme police actions that we saw in Victoria, for instance, the left has been basically immune from that, because they're doing anti-racism and climate change narratives, which essentially fit the government agendas. But this was the left, traditionally backers of the government agendas, suddenly being pummeled to the ground and pepper sprayed in their face. And where was the sympathy for that woman, the grandmother that got pepper sprayed? Basically zero. But now all of a sudden it's all over the media. There's people being pepper sprayed in their face and sitting there crying, and suddenly we've got the ABC in action and all the rest of it, So it's a complete it's a turmoil, really. We've gone from a somewhat naive and unsophisticated country, but basically Aussie to a polyglot nation without a core. And it's just breaking apart. My next book is called The Rapture, Australia Undone. And Australia Undone seems more and more appropriately, an appropriate subtitle. The place is coming undone.
Yeah, it is. On purpose. It's been engineered to come undone. Well, John, you said John Howard. Someone approached me the other day. Listen to this, Simon. Now, we owe $1 trillion, right? So a guy approached me the other day, ex-accountant, I think he was. I've got to call him back up, actually. And he said it was John Howard that started giving our fuel away, our gas away for literally nothing. And John, you said you concurred on that, whatever the word is. So there's... So
yes, I don't have total recall, and I don't have it in front of me. But yes, that's true. He was. We tied our petrol prices to the Singapore price, if I've got that right, for instance.
Something like that, yeah.
Look, I haven't got my head around it to be able to be intelligent.
Anyway, what he said was he's done the mathematics, and he reckons it has cost us $1 trillion. And what's the Australia's debt currently? $1 trillion.
Yeah. So there they are, the Conservatives trying to run as fiscal conservatives. Howard was the one that bumped up mass migration from 70,000, which was seen as pretty radical, to quadrupled it to basically 280,000 a year. And then it was Scott Morrison that quadrupled the national debt from 250 billion to $1 trillion, basically, during COVID. So the Conservatives are equally as bad as the Labor Party, which is copping an awful lot of flack on these issues.
That's why I don't think anyone
cares. The Lib Lab Uni Party, yeah.
That's why no one cares who's in charge of the Liberal Party, because we just see them as one party now, and neither of them are any better than the other.
Yeah, the WEF's in charge. The WEF's in charge of us.
That's right. That's right. And I think the new head of the WHO is a guy from Germany who was absolutely brutal in the lockdowns and in Germany. So he's now the head of the WHO. So we're just in these strange times. Anyway, that's an hour, so we might call it quits. And or half an hour for Simon, who's
just
very
got here
refreshed after his sleep.
You told me 6:30. You said 6:30.
Yeah, well, look, it's so many fucking time zones, mate. Like I was trying.
Brisbane is
different from. I'm in South Australia on the edge of a cliff. And I have to say, this is funny. This is. I was going to say this because I was sitting on this cliff here. We found this place, and it's like the Great Australian Bight, but it's actually in South Australia. And I was standing on the verge of this precipice, and to this side there's these cliffs going on, and the sun was all gold upon them, and this side the sun was all gold upon them, and the ocean was coming in really slow, almost like in slow motion. And I looked at it all and I thought, you know what? This is one of the most beautiful places I've ever taken a piss.
It's what people forget about Australia, how staggeringly beautiful it is. It really is an amazing.
I'll do some pictures later. I'll do some pictures. Yeah.
I hope the Indians enjoy it.
And we should get someone on more economically literate than me to explain the whole Howard thing. But
this is what we're finding out. It's actually like crime investigation scenes. What we need to do. Australians need to go back. What the fuck happened? How do we go from the lucky country to the white trash of Asia, which is what we're becoming? 20 years from now, we'll be doing all the Uber Eats deliveries. That's the truth, man.
The robots will be doing them. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So, what time is it now in Perth, Simon?
It's 7:10.
7:10. It's 9:40 here. How's that work?
Time flies.
So you're 2.5 hours behind.
Don't ask me. I mean, fuck.
You're in a parallel universe, mate, out there.
Yeah, I know. I've been sucked into the fucking vortex. Well, I don't know what's going on. I'm just being tossed about.
Happy Valentine's Day to everybody.
Thank you, darling.
And we're doing a Loved Up show tonight at 8:00. Loved Up show. Kelly and I are going to stay here on the cliffs. Do Loved Up show at 8:00 tonight. Isn't that right, Kel? So get ready for a big show. We'll start advertising it now. And we're back on Sunday morning. Who's the guest on Sunday morning, John?
Robin Robbins. Let's get that up. It's she wrote a book. She's a grandmother who wrote a book called The Jackboots, and basically she thought the big problem with Australia during COVID was they forgot the ancient wisdom of the grandmothers. And she's got a new book coming out called My Angry Breast, which is about surviving breast cancer, which the last thing on earth I wanted to read was a book about someone's breast cancer, but in fact it's a really incredibly moving story about personal courage and it's an incredible story, and she's an incredible person and very wise and very charming person too. So I've been really happy to edit her books, and she's a great person, really great person.
We should probably do a test with her today.
Yes,
to
you
make
should.
sure it works. So maybe make it time to do the test.
I've already told her. I've sent you her email address. So
yeah, I'm going to set it up now. Anyway, I'll give her a test.
She's a really great person and funny as well. She's
it's great.
Yeah, brave and funny and compassionate and all the rest of it. All right, she's great. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for coming on eventually, Simon.
That's all right. Fuck, I'm sorry. At 6:30. I don't know.
I thought this was a family show and you weren't allowed to swear, but so much for that illusion. Okay, talk to you later.
Sorry. See you guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Martin was a nurse with dark clouds in her face that would weep for no reason down Goodbye Road. Drove up from Melbourne, life in one case, and sat in my office, said I'm looking for a home. Don't you have someone, somewhere to go? Where are you from, John? I really wanna know. Is it like that billboard near the end of their line? Because keep rolling, honey, and you'll find mine. Sometimes you have to head out on your own, because you can die of hunger trying to suck love from a stone. Sometimes you have to go build your dream home from the orphan's haunting. Goodbye road. Love on one hand, freedom on the other. Gino said no to the jabs and lost his job and his brothers. He found Martine in a stand in the park, where after buying her a coffee, he asked as she stirred, don't you have someone, somewhere to go? Here is somewhere, you're cute, don't you know? Close your eyes, Gino, and you will see orphans can build homes on Goodbye Road. Gino stayed night after night. Then Martine whispered, let's build a light. For my soul is hungry and my heart is on fire, because it knows my love, because it now knows. Sometimes we have to head out on our own, because you can die of hunger trying to suck love from a stone. Sometimes we have to go build our dream homes with the orphans haunting. Goodbye